The Air Force, the Indian Air Force today is celebrating the Indian Air Force Day. This is the first time since Operation Sindoor, and the very first time that this day is being split over 2 days. So that is the celebrations taking place at the Hindon Air Base. Well, it is, as you can see, the Air Marshal Chief there, honoring those. In fact, particularly this really is a very special and very significant celebration of the Indian Air Forces because of the Indian Air Force since Operation Sindoor. So that is the celebration that has started. Of course, the Indian Air Force Day that is being celebrated, the significance of it coming about just after Operation Sindoor, and also the day to pay a tribute to the men and women of the Indian Air Force and highlight their operational readiness, their technological advancements and humanitarian contributions. This is being held at the Hindon Air Force Base in Ghaziabad. The celebrations that has a lot planned up because this is the first time that the celebrations are being split over 2 days. So this includes a grand parade, aircraft flypast, as well as a display of advanced aerial weaponry, while the full dress rehearsal faced some disruptions that took place just earlier. But of course, now we have celebrations that have kick-started completely. This is the 93rd Air Force Day. That is significance as this is a continuous service in defending Indian airspace and enhancing national security. The celebrations focus on Operation Sindoor, India's swift response against Pakistan-based terrorists, and the infrastructure as far as that right after the attack that took place in Pahalgam in April. So very important there. The Chief of Air Staff, as you can see, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh there, giving his, basically honoring the Air Force there. And here we will also have a parade that will feature a wide range of aircrafts showcasing India's air combat and transport capabilities. So this is, of course, as we can see, the Air Chief Marshal there honoring those in the Air Force, and also particularly those who have been responsible for the success of Operation Sindoor. This is a very significant day as far as the Indian Air Force is concerned, and this is really highlighting the increased international footprint that we are seeing, the growing international engagements and the space achievements of the Indian Air Force as well. So celebrating, of course, we have Vishnu, my colleague, joining us. Vishnu is playing out of the celebrations that have started with the Air Chief Marshal there, AP Singh there, honoring the Indian Air Force candidates there. And of course, this is very significant because this really comes about right after Operation Sindoor.
Yeah, that's right. So this is the first Air Force Day after Operation Sindoor. The Air Chief Marshal, AP Singh, yesterday also in a pre-Air Force Day address spoke about Operation Sindoor, where he spoke about how it was the Indian Air Force which had forced Pakistan onto the negotiating table, the ceasefire table, and they sued for peace. This in fact took place a couple of days after they said that they weren't interested in peace when India's first strikes into Bahawalpur and Muridke went in. These were the terror training camps of the Jaish-e-Mohammed and the Lashkar-e-Toiba that India targeted in the early hours of the 7th of May this year after the Pahalgam terror attack which took place earlier on. The Indian Air Force's strikes, of course, were extremely successful. We've seen evidence of that. And it's not just the Indian Air Force. There were 9 terror targets. 2 of these were struck by the Indian Air Force. 7 of them on day 1 were struck by the Indian Army, those which were shallower, just across the line of control. But the role of the Indian Air Force has come into sharp focus because they responded very effectively to Pakistani aggression. Remember, the Pakistanis targeted Indian air bases, they targeted Indian aircraft and facilities, military and civilian alike, in certain cases using very high-speed missiles such as the Chinese-made CM-400. The Indian Air Force's surface-to-air missile units started engaging the Pakistani Air Force. In fact, 2 months after the Op Sindoor, the operational phase of the battle phase, as it were, sort of wound down, the Indian Air Force Chief, Air Chief Marshal AP Singh, made the startling claim, and they've said this repeatedly, including by the Indian Air Force Vice Chief at an NDTV summit, that the Indian Air Force did engage and knock out 6 Pakistani aircraft in the air, including a Pakistani airborne warning and control systems aircraft, Aura and electronic intelligence aircraft, one of the two at a range of 314 kilometers, which would be a world record for a weapon in the class of the S-400. In addition to that, India struck Pakistani radars, we struck Pakistani communication systems, and once they started coming in with very heavy drones on the 8th and the 9th of September, in addition, 8th and 9th of May, in addition to targeting us militarily with those long-range vectors or long-range missiles I spoke about, the Indian Air Force then attacked Bholari, where there was an AWACS aircraft parked in the hangar in Jacobabad, where several Pakistani F-16s were perhaps under maintenance. There was a Pakistani Air Force C-130, which was also destroyed. So whether it was the Pakistani base at Sakkar, in Bholari, in Noor Khan, in Rahim Yar Khan, in Sargodha, in Murid, where underground facilities had been targeted, this was a resounding success of the Indian Air Force in pushing home, what was forced in a sense on us. It all started with the Pahalgam terror attack. India responded to that. It was always our intention to keep Op Sindoor at the level of an Indian strike in response to Pakistani terrorism. Pakistan decided to hit military targets and India responded. And it was Pakistan that came to the ceasefire table on the 10th of May this year.
Right, Vishnu, of course, the Indian Air Force destroyed several key Pakistani military assets during the operation. And of course, that is the theme. Operation Sindoor is the major theme of the celebrations taking place over 2 days. This is the first that the celebrations happen split over 2 days. And this time around, of course, the contribution when it comes to the Indian Air Force, when it comes to rescue operations as well, particularly this year, we have seen the devastation that has played out on account of the weather, the monsoon playing havoc and the kind of, the rescue operations that have, that is going to be highlighted as well in expanding that humanitarian and disaster relief role that the Indian Air Force plays. And another major achievement being noted this year is, of course, Group Captain Shubhanshu Shukla's mission to the International Space Station, the first by an Indian Air Force pilot.